Hello, this is Breakfast with Charlie States and Nina Warhurst.
Now, we all know that driving in a downpour isn't much fun. Far fewer people are aware that rainwater on our roads is also a major source of pollution.
Yeah, that's because the water washes all sorts of debris from the roads, like tyre dust and oil, straight into the ground or to the nearest stream or river.
Despite the damage it can cause, the problem is not being monitored or directly addressed. Our environment correspondent Jonah Fisher has been investigating.
The River Lambourne in Berkshire, a chalk stream known for its crystal clear water and its trout fishing.
People paint streams and rivers, but they can't paint chalk streams, can they? I love them.
Just upstream is the Great British Bake Off's white tent. Walk a few steps the other way and rural paradise turns into a pollution that most of us just drive past. The culprit? Runoff from the motorway, one of tens of thousands of drains that take water off our road network whenever it rains.
So this is the outfall from the M4, so the motorway goes over the bridge above us.
Charlotte campaigns for cleaner rivers. She's showing me how the rain flows straight off the road, coating the riverbed with a toxic brown sludge.
And that's just quite grim. And we've tested it, we've sent it to the national laboratories to be tested to see what sorts of things are in there. And there's some really scary pollutants. So there's things like arsenic, and lots of heavy metals. It's a mixture of tyres and oil and all the things that cars shed. So
it's just coming straight off the road into the river?
Straight off the road into the river.
Government figures show that runoff from roads and urban areas is the third most damaging source of water pollution after agriculture and sewage.
There's now much greater awareness and information about the volume of raw sewage that spills into our rivers and seas. By contrast, there's very little monitoring of the runoff and pollution that washes from our roads into all the same places.
In response to a Freedom of Information request from the BBC, the Environment Agency said it didn't have any specific monitoring programme assessing the impacts of road runoff. It said it did look for chemicals related to runoff in its general tests of water quality, and that responsibility for the outfalls rests with national highways and the local authorities.
If you or I were to discharge pollution into a water environment like that, we'd be prosecuted in a heartbeat.
Jo Bradley used to work for the Environment Agency, and we meet up with her where water drains off the M6 into Sid Brook.
This is a watercourse. This is a little stream in the woods in Chorley. It should be beautiful, and it's absolutely horrific, and it literally keeps me awake at night. Nationally, we've got 18,000 of these that we know about. That's just from the motorway network, and the motorway network is 3% of our road network. So they're not being monitored, and so because they're not monitored, nobody knows the extent of the pollution, and then nobody's doing anything about it.
National Highways manages England's major road network and has a legal responsibility to make sure that discharges from its network do not cause pollution.
We diverted the drainage from the A38.
We were shown one solution in Devon. A reed bed is being used to filter pollution from the road.
Dirty water comes in here. This particular basin is to filter out the solids, so the polluted solids will sink to the bottom.
There are some signs it's working. The nearby lake that used to receive the runoff.
It's almost like a Monet painting where you get those nice water lilies flourishing in the background.
Rob, the park ranger, tells me the once abundant water lilies have started to return.
This is a good news story.
National Highways has identified 254 outfalls as having a high risk of pollution, but only about 30 of them will have any mitigation in place by the end of next year.
We do take this incredibly seriously. We think it's important, and we think there's more for us to do. What we have set in place is this plan to identify those outfalls which present an elevated risk, to design the mitigations that need to be put in place, and then to deliver them before 2030.
So I took this yesterday when it was raining.
The outfalls that we visited with Jo and Charlotte are not in line for mitigation. Jonah Fisher, BBC News.
Coming up to 20 to 7, Mike's here with the sport.
Morning.